So this is a kind of alternate end that I had for the Horde. And I toyed with where this would go, or should it go in, should it go before the tag in the diner or after? And I tried it in a lot of places, and it didn't quite feel right. It was the original ending of the Horde in the script, and then I wrote the one that's in the movie at the Mirror. And we reshot that afterwards, and that felt more of like the vibe of how I wanted to end. Like, so I had this ending in for a while and kind of moved it around in a few different places, but it was just too dark, and it kind of made it feel one note for me about what his intentions were. What is his motivations? I just didn't want the beast's motivations to be reduced to kind of killing, that kind of thing. So that's why I wrote the ending that you see in the movie with the mirror. So it was more kind of, showing the world what we were capable of. But this was the original ending, kind of dark and kind of gruesome ending.
Look at all those unbroken souls.
Such a waste.
So the first scene of the deleted scenes that we're going to show you is the very beginning of the movie, basically. And I did this montage at the beginning of the movie where you were kind of seeing from Casey's point of view, but you don't know who it is yet, and you haven't met her yet. And you're just kind of watching people shopping with their bags and their drinks and supersized drinks and things like that, and on their cell phones. And really, it's kind of her feeling of being detached from everyone, that they're kind of okay with life, and it goes into the themes of everyone's asleep that Patricia will later say in the movie, and that the Beast's philosophy has about that the general world is asleep. So that's the way we used to start the movie, and then you see her and she kind of snaps out of her reverie because someone bumps into her. And there was a sense of kind of her not fitting in and her kind of being invisible, like the patrons don't even see her, and she can't find a place to fit in. And so she bumps into a guest from another table, and then a waiter bumps into her, and she can't find a place for herself. And she doesn't really fit in kind of a social teenager atmosphere. But the reason we cut it was because, that's too much knowledge about her at the beginning. First of all, it was kind of obtuse at the beginning, the thing I told you about kind of the world being asleep. But also, she herself, to learn that much right away, you wanted her to kind of be mysterious and slowly learn about who she is and why she's acting the way she did. But it's a beautiful...
Sorry, didn't see you there.
You can't keep your chair there.
This is a really big deal. The deleted scenes that we're going to show you now, which is starting with this first one here, which is there's a character in the movie that I cut out, and it really killed me to cut this character out because it was played by a brilliant, brilliant actor named Sterling Brown, who actually won the Emmy for the O.J. Simpson series the same year. A beautiful man, amazing actor, and so very, very, very difficult to cut this whole sequence out. But the first scene you're going to see is basically he plays Dr. Fletcher's neighbor, and he's a professor of the brain, and he teaches neuroscience and what the brain's capable of. And so all of his scenes were kind of meant to talk about what the brain is capable of, but it was also meant to show kind of Dr. Fletcher's loneliness. Dr. Fletcher kind of has a crush on this kind of younger professor that lives in the apartment building, and I love that kind of unrequited relationship that they have. And then he comes to realize, oh my gosh, she literally has a crush on me. This is really awkward. And it ultimately, this whole sequence didn't make it into the movie because they weren't directly dealing with the case of Kevin Wendell Crumb. And when you put a movie together and the pressure of a thriller, it just won't allow anything that isn't trying to solve the problem, the exact problem that the movie is based on. And really, it's an error on my part, kind of falling in love with characters and falling in love with a relationship that's not, worshiping the god of plot. And that's a struggle of screenwriters. But anyway, this is the first scene. They both are incredible in it, and they're very funny and flirty through all of these scenes. So this is the first moment you.
Good morning.
I read those articles.
Amazing, right? This man theorizes that the human brain contains about 10 to the 10th, about 10 billion bits of information per cubic centimeter. The brain is therefore, in his opinion, 10,000 times more densely packed with information than a computer.
It's lovely.
I gotta tell you, I love this idea of yours that those who have suffered might be the more extraordinary. Look, you should just audit my class, Dr. Fletcher.
What would I do socializing with a bunch of 20-year-olds?
Oh, they would fawn over you, especially when they find out what your area of speciality is.
So what's the next reading, Professor?
Essays on how the evolution of the brain is an analogous one. They convey that most of evolution is this way. Nothing is thrown away. It's amended. The deep and ancient parts are still functioning. The crocodile brain is still alive.
I'll read it tonight. Just email me later.
I will. I'm sorry I have to rush to class.
I went to the doctor today. Just the usual dribble about slowing down. This short hair thing of my physician really bothers me. I mean, she's a woman in her 30s, and short hair clearly sends a signal that the shop is closed, that sexuality is not a high priority. I'm not sure it's in my best interest to listen to someone whose priorities are so convoluted. See you later.
Bye, Doc.
So this second Shaw scene here is kind of her coming to a party that he's having in his apartment. And again, it's to kind of show her loneliness, and he has a full life, and he has friends, and there's women there that he's interested in, and she's a little bit jealous, a little bit left out, and she's an older lady, and she doesn't know her place, but she kind of makes excuses to come to talk to him. And so she's constantly asking about the brain and what it's capable of, and she is doing this to learn about the brain to help her patients. But there's obviously a personal part to it too. Now this particular scene I love because I wrote this speech about the autistic brain, what happens when an autistic savant concentrates. They can learn to play Beethoven just by hearing it. And I was feeling similarities between what they can do and what DID patients could do. So this is a scene where the two.
You just stop me when it's time for your date.
It's not a date. It's just work colleagues and friends getting together.
Well, I'm gonna ignore that obvious lie. This party is clearly a ruse for a salacious objective.
I would never allow one of my real students to meet me after class like this.
Are those your hoochies?
They're my friends, Dr. Fletcher, yes.
The more zoftig one is a catch, but the other two are beneath you.
I tend to agree.
You know what? I'll email you my questions.
You're just using me to prove your thesis, that your clients are real.
I use everybody.
You've almost convinced me, by the way.
How so?
I was thinking there are studies about the autistic brain. They show an autistic savant can shut out other stimuli and see things in a field with astounding acuity. Now, it's possible that your patients are compartmentalizing in the same fashion. Compartmentalizing is everything to assimilating information. It's hyper-concentration. It would explain the way that they can master language, knowledge, skills. There's scientific precedent for this.
Sometimes I think people won't believe unless they see it for themselves.
Maybe.
You should go. The pheromones from your inamoratas are making me nauseous.
Let's see if we can convince some people together. And, they're attorneys, Dr. Fletcher.
Go do a lap, as they say.
You're terrible.
So this is the final scene between the two of them, Professor Shaw and Dr. Fletcher. And basically, it's this really awkward scene where Dr. Fletcher has dropped by yet again, kind of uninvited, where he's having a date. He's about to leave on a date with this beautiful woman, and she's very awkwardly there. And they basically have this weird triangle conversation, and Professor Shaw doesn't want her to hurt her feelings, and he's being very supportive. And now the girlfriend's like, "Why are you paying more attention to her?" And this is very odd. But the thing they're talking about, and the way Dr. Fletcher kind of goes at the girlfriend there, was a really important speech for me, and I was sad to not have it in the movie, where she talks about the facts of how the mind and the body are connected between stress and the blood pressure and the placebo effect. So it's a really, really cool logic that leads through DID and makes it all facts. So it's really important and something that I really believe in. So here's that scene. And also at the end of it, she confesses that she kind of has a crush on him, and he's kind of taken aback. It's kind of a beautiful thing, and she kind of connects her loneliness to her obsession of DID. And that's one of my favorite moments in the movie that's not in the movie, this moment where she says why she is obsessed with DIT people and why she's...
I'm sorry to drop by unannounced.
Oh, please. Our reservation isn't for half an hour.
I don't buy it. I'm sorry for being blunt. I would need to see the evidence.
You know, everything in brain development would support this.
Psychology and physiology are linked, my young attorney friend. That is scientific fact. When you stress, your blood pressure goes up.
I'll buy that.
I give you a sugar pill and tell you it's the cure, and you cure yourself. The placebo effect is scientific fact. DID patients have changed their body chemistry with their thoughts. What they think they are, they are.
I don't think what you're saying they can do is possible. I just can't accept it. I'm sorry.
Well, I've seen studies on the placebo effect. It's amazing.
She's nice.
You're right. Not about her.
I'm afraid she won't believe unless she sees. I'm not just using you to prove my thesis. You know, sometimes I think I'm obsessed with DID patients because I envy them.
How so?
They're never alone.
Have you seen my purse?
Bye.
So this is a scene where all the three girls are trying to figure out what's going on here, and they're all kind of putting out their theories and trying to figure out what's happening because it's confusing to them. Is this a crazy person? Does he want something sexual from them? What's happening? And I really enjoyed the way they each kind of throughout their opinion about how bad this situation is, and at the end, kind of Casey comes to a conclusion that both baffles them but makes them feel like this is even worse than they can imagine. And the reason that this is not in the film, and again, this was in the film for a long time, was this pressure at the beginning of the movie for the girls to figure out a way out and to get to the moment when Patricia opens the door. I really, like, the movie kind of takes off like a rocket from that moment on. There's always a kind of a gunshot moment in the movie, and that's obviously for Split, the moment where Patricia, they reveal that Patricia is there. So the faster we got to that, the better. And so this kind of came out. This was in the movie for a long time.
There's a flower on the pillows, a flower in the bathroom. Like we're important.
Maybe he wants to make us his brides. You know, one of those guys who wants to Stockholm syndrome you, who'll keep us here for 15 years, be just nice enough.
There are no cabinets. No clothes. We're not staying here for a long time. We're meant for something.
So this scene is actually was a really, really fun scene with Patricia, where she's kind of ranting about how one feeds animals, and kind of, you know, she's so excited about this whole thing and thinks it's wonderful for them that they're a part of this kind of sacrifice. And and the way she's talking about it as if it's their wedding day, and gleeful about it, is kind of bizarre and funny. And the girls are kind of taken aback, and then Casey starts to kind of out logic her a little bit and try to get out of the room. Her whole point is to try to get out of the room. And actually, this scene's really interesting because this was the scene that we found Patricia. And what I mean by that was James and I were, you know, trying to figure out who is Patricia? What does she sound like? Who is she? And I said, well, you know, what if she had a British accent? What if she was kind of really, you know, prim and proper, and she does everything right? And why don't you read this page, James? And he read this page as Patricia for the first time. So for me, this dialogue that you're about to see is always the birth of Patricia. As soon as I heard him do this, you know, full carcass feedings and talking about how you feed an animal in that kind of zealot-like British, you know, accent that he's doing, I was like, that's Patricia. Done. We know who Patricia is. So I hope you enjoy this scene. The reason it's not in there is because I didn't want Casey to trick Patricia just yet. I wanted Patricia to be in control and take.
That's to show how important you are. It won't be long.
Who's coming?
I can't say, but I understand. This must all seem so unsatisfactory for you, but we are doing the best we can. I don't know if you know this, but full carcass feeding is simply the best thing for animals, provided that the carcasses are fresh and don't have any respiratory issues, and you two don't look like you do. Did you know that a tiger has only 30 teeth? That's 12 less than a dog. I thought that was a fun fact.
Could we eat somewhere else? Anywhere.
Pardon?
We're frightened in here. It's a new place for us, and I grew up on a farm, and our vet says that animals eat better in familiar environments.
My, aren't you the clever one? They do say that. Is she trying to trick me? I'm not a child.
No. I just don't have an appetite.
Yeah.
An additional flashback of Casey when she was a kid, and I think the only one that's not, the one that I wrote that's not in the movie. And again, this was in the movie for a long time, and it's a very subtle reason why I didn't put it in. I didn't want it. Why I wrote it was a feeling of that the child had told her dad about what in her best way at 5 years old was strong, and figured out a way to tell her dad, I don't want to be around him anymore, her uncle, and was proactive. And it seems like everything's solved. And then we cut back to her, and she's screaming in the room where Dennis has kept her. And what I was hoping for was like a feeling of like, why is she still screaming? What don't we know? Even though it seems like he handled it at that point. But I took it out because I felt like it was an extra kind of loop-de-loop emotionally that was unnecessary. She had this incredibly traumatic experience, and then we learned later about the passing of her father in another flashback, and I wanted just a clean movement. That extra loop in the middle seemed unnecessary, but I do love...
Could have killed me.
Why are you guys so quiet? Something wrong? Casey?
I don't want to hunt with John anymore. I want to just be us.
Okay, babe. We can do that. Deal.
You good?
So when I was writing the script, this whole kind of Hedwig taking Casey out of the room sequence was much longer. And what you're about to see is a kind of a little beat of what we were originally thinking, that Hedwig would play all these weird games and with her and keep acting like this was the funnest moment of his life, having this girl, and he gets to take her out, and so he's kind of on a date, and he's doing the best he can because he's only 10 years old. But in the end, again, we wanted to get to that dance moment as soon as possible. And really, I was kind of being redundant, you know, saying, okay, he's weird and having fun, and this is kind of scary. And I kept doing the same beat, so it was very redundant. So that's why I took it out.
Hurry up, come on, let's go. It's time. I'm gonna be big one day, taller than you. Let's play hide and seek!
Hedwig? Hedwig?
Me. Good job.
When I did the first cut of the movie, put the movie together for the first time and showed it to a kind of a group of friends in New York, it was 3 hours long, and every scene was in the movie, and you know, you slowly carve away over time. I didn't know how long it would eventually be. I think it's just under 2 hours, you know, the final movie. So you can see there's a lot that came out and a lot of beautiful moments. This scene you're about to see is with Dennis. He kind of, after he sprays Dr. Fletcher, he feels remorse because he doesn't understand. In my mind, Dennis was recruited by Patricia. And Patricia's the zealot. She believes in the beast, and she recruited Dennis. And Dennis is kind of, he wants to be important. He wants to be a part of something, but he's not really that fanatical like Patricia. So when he has to spray Dr. Fletcher, he feels, conflicted. He likes Dr. Fletcher. So this is a scene of him feeling remorse and coming to Casey, a little moment of him trying to connect with Casey, and he's really questioning whether they should go through with this.
Maybe we are crazy. Maybe we should all die. I should go. I'll be late.
One identity in an individual with dissociative identity disorder can be dramatic. As much as the difference between you and me, the identities have different IQs. They have different physical strengths. Their ability to hyper-focus and have different experiences is astounding. Have these individuals, through their suffering, unlocked the potential of the brain? Is this where our sense of the supernatural comes from?
What if a person with DID thought one of its personalities was supernatural? Would they have supernatural powers? I love taking real-world things and asking a question of, is there a plausible way to believe in the unknown? An easy way to think about why I was interested in coming back to this world of Unbreakable was a really simple one. I was a young man when I wrote Unbreakable and was very masculine-oriented, very kind of, guy-oriented. And then I had kids. And then for a long while my kids were growing up, I was more interested in family-oriented stuff because that's really where my headspace was. So I was telling younger stories and to a younger audience, to children, and my kids have grown up. It's just life, and so you live for other people a little bit more, and then you live back for yourself a little bit. And now when I'm thinking about myself, those things that I was writing about during the Unbreakable time are valid again.
I said tonight, what is the character's name? And he said,
I can't tell you that, just read the script. And he was like, what? He didn't understand what I was saying, because it was like, what am I supposed to point out every other character in the script?
Just read the script, it's pretty crazy, and you've got to stick with it.
I think he just thought it was so messed up and so whacked that it was crazy, and he's so up for anything.
And I got through the first 10 pages, and I was like, what is this? And then the next 10 pages, it was a different, what is that? I think that's the joy of what Knight does so well, is that he keeps an audience on their toes, trying to figure out, what kind of film are we watching? Are we watching a thriller? Are we watching a supernatural? Are we watching a horror movie? What are we watching?
I think I'll put a pretty flower in your hair.
Well, I had to work hard to get the script. Originally, they wanted me to sign on without having read it. I was like, please let me read the script. And I read it on the plane ride, pretty much coming to Philadelphia.
Everything about the script was top secret. I was texting Haley, tell me what happens, and she was saying, no, I can't. I want you to be surprised yourself.
Once I got the script, it was way more screwed up and creepy than I could have ever imagined. It was great to read because I had no clue what to expect.
Haley.
You're just left on a cliffhanger at the end of each page, just wanting to know what's going to be the outcome of all of this. Where's this going to go? And it goes in ways you would never expect.
You're saying that you're not gonna fight with everything in you? You know the only chance
only chance we have is if all three of us go crazy on this guy.
Claire is really the leader of the group that's saying things like, we need to fight him, we need to escape, we can do this, we can all get together and get out of here, like this isn't the end. You know, Marcia kind of looks to her as that leader in this really, really like screwed up time.
I was shocked and amazed, and I loved my character, and I could find a way into her, and I could understand the way that she was feeling about things, and I could also really relate to how she was so much of an outsider and how she just didn't fit into the situation.
Dr. Fletcher is a very one-pointed person. She's very committed to her work with her patients.
Well, can we sit down and talk?
I'm in a real hurry.
I feel it's important that we talk, and I make sure that you are okay.
She has dedicated her whole life to that work. She has some very cutting-edge perspectives about who her patients really are, and that they really are at the edge of the evolution of mankind in so many ways. Who are you?
The ambiance on set is marvelous. It's just so family-oriented, and even if things are going wrong, everyone's pretty relaxed.
Ah, someone get her off me!
We make jokes and stuff. I do a lot of eating a lot of fruit snacks and yummy wraps that the beautiful, crafty ladies make us, which, like, you know, takes our mind off the terrible stuff we're going through as our characters.
You know, you come into work and you're not thinking, oh, this is this good scene where we're smiling and happy. It's like, okay, and we're back in that mode. We're back in the mode of like all of us like crying and shivering. And for me anyway, I have to laugh and I have to have fun. You know, I'm on a set with all of these amazing people. I want to get to know them. So in between, I have to sort of let go and laugh.
I've had a really good time with Anya Taylor-Joy and Jess Sula. Haley Lou's just been a right laugh. And Betty Buckley as well, just an incredible bunch of women, which I was slightly scared of coming in, because it's like I'm going to be properly outnumbered, you know? And they've been really gentle with me, really sort of. They've really been sensitive to the fact that I am the lone male.
The visual look of this film, I've really been incredibly excited about. It is, in my opinion, his most cinematic movie.
It feels very like a French film in a lot of ways. There's a style to it. The way they're lighting the movie and the way they're shooting this is very, very artistic and beautiful. And it's, I think, an unusual combination for a film that's meant to scare the bejesus out of you, too.
It's stylized in a very subtle way. Very natural, but mysterious and moody. And I love it, because you know, you see just enough, but there's also enough in the shadows that you want to see more.
Split was always inspired by independent cinema, but like, for example, when you look at the people that I hired, I saw the movie It Follows, and I thought that I just loved the way it was shot, so I got that cinematographer, this young guy who barely had shot anything. He shot It Follows, and that was it, and I was like, hey, do you want to shoot my movie? I mean, I didn't know if it would work out, but it did. It really, really did. Also, it didn't hurt when he was in the interview, and he's like, Unbreakable is one of my favorite movies. I'm like, you're hired. And then Mara, who did the production design for us, I saw True Detective, which really affected me. I was like, who did that? Let me get that person. So Mara came on and she did the production design and it was wonderful.
What's amazing about Night is, I mean, he has the whole movie in his head. It's probably the most succinct design process that I've had, because there's so much thought behind everything that there really isn't any guesswork that needs to happen. You think when you get down into the windowless room for the first time that this is a basement or something else, and that's the world. But then the reality of it is that we keep kind of peeling out and opening up that subterranean space, and it's a completely different story. And even beyond that, we have the multiple personality impact of the character that we have to kind of dress into the set, but also not reveal right away. So there's a lot of nuance and subtlety that we really tried to address in all of the set dressing, and it's been really fun actually having the crew come to set, because once they're trapped in a space for an hour trying to light something, they look around, they're like, oh, I get it, this is part of this world. And that's the greatest reward, I think, for me, is when people, you know, kind of catch these little things that we work so hard to thread throughout. Because we're making a film in Philadelphia, and because he's so loyal and such an amazing citizen of the city, there's also a lot of opportunities that present themselves that I don't think a film this size that was just coming in without its connections to the city that we wouldn't have access to. So in some ways, the production value is actually much higher. We have some really big moments. I don't think we would have gotten them without Knight's persuasion.
I think that's really cool that Knight uses the resources he has to make the movie that he wants to make.
I think he's really brave, bold, and I think he's really clever. He's bucking the trend that says in order to tell an audience that you've got a good story, you have to spend 200 million on it. I don't think budget is really a signifier of quality, but just a symbol of how many cranes or how many lights or how many big actors are in it. Doesn't mean it's a good story. And I think what he's doing is clearing away all the interference, and he's getting back to proper good storytelling. I am James McAvoy, and I play Dennis, and Barry, and Patricia.
Don't worry.
And Hedwig.
My name's Hedwig. I have red socks.
And Orwell. Muhammad, of course, conquest between 1192 and 1200. And Jade.
Wait! No, don't do that. Don't do that. He can't handle reality.
All the characters in this movie are challenging in themselves, but having to play all of those characters, sometimes in the same shot, has been the biggest challenge. Not just playing them individually, which is a challenge sort of in itself, but also an audience will buy you as one character, hopefully. And then you've got to go, forget that, now buy me as this next person. And to make that transition interesting and to make that part of the fun of the movie, but not make that alienate the audience, that's my job.
I'm trying to be good.
Spielberg said 90% of directing is casting, and I remember reading that in film school, and I was like, what does he mean by that? And, you know, this is what he means by that. James McAvoy is what he means by that. When I wrote it, I was thinking there's not many human beings that could play this, because if someone could do 2 of the roles, they couldn't do the other 2 roles. The physicality would throw them off. It has to be someone who could play the Beast and a child.
Oh, that's here. What?
Shooting a movie about a split personality is fascinating because even though it's one actor, it's really multiple characters. And that's the way everyone has approached this, because he really transforms himself when he's playing different roles. James is fearless.
You like it?
And I think that's why he's the perfect actor to play this role, because he can just jump into each character without overthinking it, and I think that's why Knight and him have had such a great rapport on set, because the characters that Knight's created, James sees immediately, and he's diving in head first.
When you watch him, you really believe that his individual personalities are different people, and it's really because he's a great actor that you're able to do that, and if you weren't able to do that when you watch the movie really wouldn't work.
He's not allowed to touch you. He knows that.
He really is a performer that wants you to do your best as well. And it's a pleasure to work with him. And also, like, having him this close, just an acting masterclass.
I think he's one of the best actors in the business, and I've been his fan for years and years and years, and he and I have this wonderful chemistry that's quite immediate, and it's very effortless.
James is, first of all, a really cool guy. He doesn't act like he's cool. He acts like he's a complete nerd, which is great. We've had a lot of fun with him. But he's also, like, a very good actor, and he's, like, really bringing it to the top notch that it could possibly be.
If you put a different person or a slightly wrong person, a brilliant actor but not quite right, we're gonna have a problem, because I'm gonna be pushing you past your comfort zone where I have you off kilter, and now we're both facing the unspoken, tacit reality that you weren't the right person for this. And this was the opposite.
My process was the usual thing, really. You just had to do it 9 times rather than 1 time. And then voice and mannerisms, half of it comes through instinct, and then half of it's by design.
And even just finding within James, who luckily, he's brilliant at accents. So basically I was rifling through his encyclopedia of his accents, and so when I'd throw out something, I was like, how about Hedwig has a lisp? He loved it, and I was like, bingo, we got the kid.
My name's Hedwig. I have red socks.
So when I would say to James, there's a fine line when you're playing Hedwig that you're not playing a dumb adult. That's not what you're playing. That's how most people play a child when they're playing as an adult. You're playing a very smart child who doesn't have life experience.
Can I kiss you? I wanted to kiss the other girl with the dark hair, but she's in trouble.
The movie is, I mean, essentially a fantasy.
Who are you?
I wanted to take something scientific and psychologically proven and keep going with it, keep going. First 2, 3 steps have been proven and the next one was not proven, but it's a question. If you get stressed and your blood pressure goes up, you believe that. Do you believe I give you a pill and it's full of sugar, but I told you it's a cure and a portion of the population cures themselves of all diseases? Do you believe that? It's true, that's a fact. It's in every scientific study everywhere, and every medicine is pit against the placebo effect. Now I'm going to introduce you to DID, where each individual personality believes they are who they are 100%. One personality has diabetes, one has high cholesterol, one can't see, and their body changes chemically as they get to that belief system. Now I'm going to ask one more question, and that's the one no one's asked, which I'm asking, which is, what if a person with DID thought one of its personalities was supernatural? Would they have supernatural powers? There's many ways to get to authenticity. One of the ways is ad-libbing, right? Because you ad-lib until you're being honest, and it comes out, you know, in a raw kind of way. What I'm trying to do is to get to that place, but from a belief that the screenplay that I wrote has the information like a play. It's in there. If you trust me as the writer, it's there.
He likes to kind of go away for a week or 2 or a month or 2, work, and then share the work, and we talk about it.
Clearly, from writing and nursing this baby of a script, he knows what he wants.
He knows exactly what he wants.
Because he knows exactly what he wants, he's able to apply that to the kind of economics of the film and still be able to execute his vision within a number.
You know with Knight if you're getting it or not, and if he's happy or not. Because when he's happy, he's ecstatic, and he's like a little kid.
That was a good one.
And when he doesn't feel like he's getting literally 100%, even if he's got 99% of it, perfect and beyond all expectations, he'll still be like, yeah, no, it was great. Yeah, it was really good.
With James and myself, it was one of those rare, wonderful things where your lead actor just gave in the most complex role I've ever written. He just gave in to the point, like, I'd go home and I'd call him and I'd say, we didn't get it today. We're gonna come back and get this. I don't even need to look at the daily. We didn't get it. And he goes, I know. And then, you know, fear goes away, and then kind of desire to find him or her comes up, and then we go back and we get it the next day.
I don't have to worry about whether I'm doing a good job or not, because if I'm not doing a good job, he's going to tell me. It takes a lot of weight off my shoulders because he's seeing it. So I can feel a certain way about the character and I can feel a certain way about a choice, but then he can see it in the wide lens of the movie and tell me if it works or not.
He, you know, conceived the project, he wrote the script, he knows how he needs to tell the story, and then it's up to you as his actor to give him that. I love working with him, and so it simplifies what can be overcomplicated in my process.
When he sees something and he's excited by it, sometimes we adapt. But for us, it's so exciting to have someone that, you know, sees something and wants to make it even better. And it might mean a little bit more work on our end, but it really is just so rewarding.
I think there's a purity to him that he had early on in his career that he has found again. He's really gone back just to the love of filmmaking and storytelling, and he's really just focused on the characters. And, you know, he's doing what I think he does best, which is telling really personal, contained stories. I think everyone goes through their own path, but sometimes you have to kind of find your voice again after going through different directions in your careers. And I feel like he's done that.
Knight is pretty much the hardest working person that I've ever encountered in Hollywood. He does not only above and beyond what might be expected of him, even as a writer and director, but he is the one who's really bringing the ideas to the table.
That sort of pursuit of the vision that he has in his mind is quite inspiring, where you really, really want to please him, because he's got great ideas and he comes up with great stuff on the page, and he's got such a great, strong image in his head of what this film should be like, sound like, feel like, and look like. And so you want to be able to help him give that to an audience, you know?
And action.